What if the most important message in human history wasn't a word, but a number? What if the universe finally decided to speak, not in a language we could translate, but in a sequence we could only recognize? Something happened on October 13th, 2025, that has the entire astronomical community either scrambling for explanations or pretending they didn't see it. An interstellar object, the one we've been tracking for months, designated 3I Atlas, allegedly sent out light pulses in a sequence that shouldn't exist naturally. 5, 8, 13, the Fibonacci sequence. It's a moment that splits our timeline in two. The world before we knew we were being watched, and the world after. Let's begin with the claim itself, because it's so profound, so utterly reality-shattering, that even bringing it up requires careful framing. On October 13th, 2025, an interstellar object, a traveler from a distant unknown star system, was allegedly observed sending out structured light pulses. This wasn't random flickering or the natural outgassing of a comet. This was a signal. The sequence was simple, elegant, and impossible to ignore. 5, 8, 13. To anyone unfamiliar with mathematics, those numbers might seem arbitrary. But to a biologist, a physicist, an artist, or a historian, that sequence is the fingerprint of a universal architect. It is the core of the Fibonacci sequence, a simple recursive pattern where each number is the sum of the two preceding it. Start with 0 and 1. You get 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and so on, spiraling into infinity. This isn't just a mathematical curiosity. It is a fundamental building block of our reality. You see it in the spiral of a nautilus shell, a perfect logarithmic curve that has maintained its form for hundreds of millions of years. You see it in the branching of trees, the most efficient way to reach for sunlight. You see it in the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower head, packed in opposing spirals that follow Fibonacci numbers to maximize space. It's the mathematical expression of phi, the golden ratio, approximately 1.618, a number that seems to encode efficiency, harmony, and beauty into the very fabric of existence. So when an object from beyond our solar system pulses light with these specific numbers, it's not just making noise. It's speaking in a language that predates humanity, a language woven into our own DNA and the galaxies swirling above us. It's a way of saying, we see the code you are built from because we are built from it, too. Now, if that wasn't strange enough, consider the timing. This happened on the exact 108th anniversary of one of the most witnessed and inexplicable phenomena in modern history: the miracle of the sun at Fatima, Portugal. On October 13th, 1917, tens of thousands of people, believers, skeptics, journalists, and scientists, gathered in a field because three shepherd children claimed the Virgin Mary would perform a miracle. What they saw was recorded in newspapers around the world. The sun, they said, appeared to dance in the sky, changing colors, spinning like a wheel of fire, and plunging toward the earth before returning to its normal position. Skeptics have tried to explain it away for a century. Mass hallucination, atmospheric effects. But none of their theories fully account for the physical evidence, like the fact that the rain-soaked ground and clothing of the crowd were reported to be suddenly and completely dry. Now, 108 years later, to the day, an object from beyond our solar system, positioned in a way that makes it almost impossible for us to see clearly, pulses light in the mathematical signature of creation itself. The number 108 is, in itself, a deep synchronicity. In Hindu and Buddhist cosmology, it is a sacred number. There are 108 beads on a mala for reciting mantras, representing the 108 earthly desires to overcome. In sacred geometry, it's a number that appears in the dimensions of ancient temples. In the framework of David Cherita, the researcher who first published the Fibonacci pulse claim, 108 is a harmonic frequency of 432 Hz, a musical tuning that many believe resonates with the natural vibrations of the universe. The connections are stacking up. We have a sacred date, a sacred number, and a sacred mathematical sequence, all converging on a single object from another star. Is this a cosmic coincidence of unimaginable proportions, or is it a perfectly orchestrated message, delivered at a moment of maximum symbolic significance? The immediate response to a claim this extraordinary should be simple. Verify the data. Point every available telescope at the object and see for ourselves. But that's where this story takes a turn from the strange to the deeply suspicious. At the very moment this alleged signal was detected, our best eyes on the Sun and its surroundings went dark. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory, or SDO, is one of our primary tools for observing solar activity and anything passing near our star. If 3I Atlas were going to do something unusual while positioned behind the Sun, the SDO would be the instrument most likely to catch it. On October 13th, its live feed went offline. The official reason? Routine maintenance. The timing, though, is the kind of coincidence that makes even the most level-headed scientists squint with suspicion. It feels less like bad luck and more like pulling the curtains just as the main act is about to begin. But it gets worse. Let's talk about our eyes at Mars. The high-resolution imaging science experiment, the HiRISE camera, is aboard the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. It is one of the most powerful cameras we have ever sent into space, capable of resolving objects down to mere feet from orbit. During the Mars flyby of 3I Atlas, HiRISE could have potentially revealed structural features, surface anomalies, anything that might suggest this object isn't just a dirty snowball from another star system. It has been offline since October 1st. The official explanation is that one of its electronics units has been failing since August of 2023. A plausible reason. But the timing of its complete shutdown, right before the most critical observation window we'll have for months, feels almost scripted. It's like the star witness in a trial suddenly falling ill the day before their testimony. Add to this the broader political context. On October 1st, the United States government entered a shutdown. Over 15,000 NASA employees were furloughed. Data pipelines were slowed, processing was delayed, and communication with the public was minimized. 2 days later, on October 3rd, 3I Atlas made its closest approach to Mars, the best opportunity for detailed imaging and spectroscopy from our Martian orbiters. Yet, what have we seen? The European Space Agency released a few low-resolution images from their Mars Express orbiter showing a faint white dot. That's it. Nothing with the resolution we were promised. We have a fleet of sophisticated scientific instruments orbiting Mars, and the best we get is a blurry photo that tells us nothing new. This creates a perfect storm of plausible deniability. If you wanted to control the narrative, you couldn't design a better scenario. Equipment failures, bureaucratic shutdowns, orbital mechanics, each one is a defensible reason for the lack of data. But together, they form a wall of silence around the most significant astronomical object of our lifetime. It's an information blackout, and it forces us to ask an uncomfortable question. Are we the victims of cosmic bad luck, or is someone deliberately preventing us from seeing what's really out there? Into this information vacuum steps David Cherita, the man who published the Fibonacci pulse analysis. It's crucial to understand who he is. Cherita is not a mainstream astronomer. You won't find his work in the pages of Nature or Science. He operates on the fringes, blending orbital mechanics with ancient sacred geometry, Dante's Paradiso, and the work of Nikola Tesla. He is exactly the kind of figure the scientific establishment is predisposed to dismiss as a crank. But here's the problem. Cherita has made previous claims about 3I Atlas that initially looked absurd, but were later unexpectedly supported by other data. He's not just making things up out of thin air. He's building a complex, if unconventional, model of the cosmos. This model, which he calls the hyperdimensional solar system, was developed with his late partner, Crystal Manaka Cherita. At its heart is a central number, 591, Sherita claims this represents the orbital period in Earth days of a theoretical planet located between Mars and the asteroid belt. While there's no observational evidence for this planet, Sherita demonstrates that if you take 591 and divide it repeatedly by the golden ratio, 1.618, you generate a sequence of numbers that match the orbital periods of known planets with stunning accuracy. Divide 591 by phi, and you get a number eerily close to Earth's 365.256-day year. The model maps the 9 celestial spheres of Dante's Paradiso, each associated with a different angelic order, onto hidden orbital resonances in our solar system. In this framework, the Fibonacci numbers transmitted by 3I Atlas are not random. They are a direct reference to his cosmological map. 5 equals Earth's position. 8 equals the domain of the theoretical planet 591. And 13 equals the virtues, an outer boundary in his system. If an intelligence were using this object to communicate, and if that intelligence understood how humans have encoded cosmic order into myth, then sending these 3 numbers would be a way of saying, "We know your hidden models. We know your sacred history. We are speaking your forgotten language." Sherita himself frames his discovery as a potential leak, questioning whether it's genuine data released through unconventional channels to avoid official attribution. This pattern, information appearing in fringe communities, being dismissed, and then quietly being confirmed by official sources weeks later, is a hallmark of what some call a soft disclosure strategy. It allows powerful institutions to gauge public reaction without taking responsibility for the information itself. It gives them plausible deniability. So we are left with a difficult choice. Do we dismiss Sherita as a numerologist seeing patterns where none exist? Or do we consider the terrifying possibility that he has tapped into a hidden structure of our solar system, a structure that an interstellar intelligence not only recognizes, but is now using to communicate with us? Now we arrive at the most critical and potentially terrifying part of this entire story. The perihelion blackout. There is a window of opportunity, one that opens exactly once during 3I Atlas's passage through our solar system, where if you wanted to do something without being observed, the geometry of orbital mechanics hands you the perfect cover. That window opened on October 29, 2025, when the object reached perihelion, its closest approach to the Sun, and it won't close until early December. For roughly 6 weeks, 3I Atlas is positioned behind the Sun from our perspective, completely invisible to our telescopes, hidden in the blinding glare of our own star. If this object is just a comet, this is simply an observational inconvenience. But if it is what Avi Loeb and others have suggested, an intelligently controlled probe, this is the moment it would make its move. This is where a principle of orbital mechanics called the Oberth effect comes into play. In simple terms, the Oberth effect states that a spacecraft gets the maximum benefit from a propulsion burn when it is moving at its fastest. For an object passing through our solar system, its maximum velocity occurs at perihelion, when it's deepest in the Sun's gravity well. Think of it like a skateboarder dropping into a half-pipe. They are moving fastest at the very bottom. If they want to slow down and stop, the most efficient time to apply the brakes is at that point of maximum speed. Now imagine you're an interstellar probe. You've timed your arrival perfectly. You reach perihelion on the opposite side of the Sun from the civilization you are observing. They can't see you. Their solar monitoring instruments are conveniently offline. You execute what's called a reverse solar Oberth maneuver, a powerful braking burn. The combination of your thrust and the Sun's immense gravity allows you to shed velocity with incredible efficiency. By the time you emerge from behind the Sun in December, you are no longer an interstellar interloper on a trajectory back out into the void. You are a resident. You have been captured into a solar orbit, and the civilization you are watching won't even know it happened until you decide to reveal yourself. Astrophysicist Avi Loeb has been explicit about this risk. His calculations show that a velocity change of just 30 to 40 kilometers per second during this perihelion passage, a change achievable with known propulsion technologies, could redirect 3I Atlas toward Earth with a potential arrival as early as late November or December. That is not a slow approach we would see coming for months. That is a matter of weeks. The first sign we would have is the object appearing in an unexpected position when it emerges from the solar glare, already on an intercept course. And what makes this blackout so frustrating is that we do have an asset that could see what's happening. The European Space Agency's JUICE spacecraft on its way to Jupiter has a clear line of sight. It is scheduled to observe 3I Atlas in November. But here's the catch. Due to its current position, JUICE has to use its high-gain antenna as a heat shield. It can only transmit data back to Earth at a very slow rate. The full dataset from its observations won't be downloaded and processed until February 2026. 4 months. 4 months during which, if the object did alter its course, if it deployed smaller probes, if it showed any sign of artificial propulsion, we simply will not know. The data might exist, sitting in a memory bank millions of miles away, but it will be functionally inaccessible to us until it might be too late. Even if you dismiss the Fibonacci pulses and the suspicious blackout, you are still left with the object itself. 3I Atlas is not a normal comet. It is a cascade of scientific violations, a collection of anomalies that, taken together, paint a picture of something profoundly strange. Let's start with its tail. Every comet observed in human history has a tail that points away from the sun. This is basic physics. Solar radiation and the solar wind push the lighter gas and dust particles outward. But images of 3I Atlas from the Keck Observatory show something different. A fainted anti-solar tail extending toward the sun. The proposed natural explanation is that larger dust particles are being ejected with enough force to briefly travel sunward before gravity pulls them back. It's possible, but it requires an ejection mechanism more powerful than what we see in normal comets. Then there is its chemical composition. Spectroscopic analysis revealed strong emission lines of nickel. Nickel isn't unusual in comets, but nickel without iron is. The two elements are forged together in stars and almost always appear together. The only known process that produces pure nickel emissions without iron is the industrial Mond process, used for metal refinement here on Earth. Finding that chemical signature in an object from another star is, to put it mildly, unexpected. Furthermore, the James Webb Space Telescope revealed that the object's composition is bizarrely backwards. Normal comets are mostly water ice. 3I Atlas is overwhelmingly carbon dioxide, a carbon comet that just happens to have some water. This suggests it formed in an extremely cold region of its home star system, but it makes it unlike any other interstellar object we've seen. Then there's the mass problem. Based on how it resists the rocket-like forces of its own outgassing, Avi Loeb calculates its mass must be at least 33 billion tons. To have that much mass, if it's made of porous ice like a normal comet, it would have to be enormous. But its brightness suggests it's relatively small. A small, incredibly dense object is not consistent with a dirty snowball, and we haven't even touched on its rotation period. 16.16 hours, which converts to 969.6 minutes. 969, the age of the biblical figure Methuselah. A coincidence? Maybe. But when you have this many coincidences, the tail, the chemistry, the mass, the rotation, the trajectory that aligns so closely with our planetary plane, at some point, the stack of coincidences gets so tall that refusing to consider alternatives becomes its own form of bias. We are either looking at the single most unusual natural object ever discovered, one that breaks a dozen rules simultaneously, or we are looking at something else entirely. This brings us to the most daring and controversial explanation, championed by Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb. He put his reputation on the line by co-authoring a paper with a provocative title, is the interstellar object 3I Atlas alien technology. His core argument is a thought experiment grounded in logic and orbital mechanics. If you were an extraterrestrial intelligence and you wanted to study a planetary system without being detected, you would build a probe that looked like a natural object. You would disguise it as a comet or an asteroid. It would be a Trojan horse, a surveillance platform masquerading as cosmic debris. The analysis in Loeb's paper is fascinating. He and his co-authors calculated the change in velocity, or delta V, that 3I Atlas would need to intercept various planets in our solar system. What they found is that it passes close enough to Mars, Venus, and Jupiter that it could deploy sub-probes to them with relatively small, achievable burns. Its trajectory, which is retrograde, moving opposite to the planets, and has a low inclination, aligned with the planetary plane, is tactically brilliant for a reconnaissance mission. It maximizes observation opportunities while making its path appear statistically unusual but not impossible. The entire mission profile is consistent with the dark forest hypothesis, a concept from Cixin Liu's science fiction novel, The Three-Body Problem. The theory posits that the universe is like a dark forest filled with silent hunters. Every civilization is a potential threat, so the safest strategy is to stay hidden. If you send a probe to another system, you make it stealthy. You observe covertly. You only reveal yourself when it is to your strategic advantage. In this framework, the behavior of 3I Atlas makes perfect, terrifying sense. It arrives looking like a comet. It observes our major planets. It uses the perihelion blackout, the one time it's hidden from the most technologically advanced planet in the system, to execute its primary maneuver. It is a textbook example of a dark forest probe. Loeb doesn't claim this is definitively the case. He ranks 3I Atlas at a 6 on his proposed scale of to 10, where 0 is definitely natural and 10 is definitely technological. A 6 means we should be taking this seriously, not dismissing it out of hand. The criticism of Loeb is that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. But at what point does the accumulation of anomalies become extraordinary evidence in itself? If this object emerges from behind the Sun in December having changed its trajectory, it will jump to a 9 or 10 on his scale. If it does, we will be forced to confront the reality that we are not alone, and our first visitor might be operating under a logic that views our very existence as a potential threat. Beyond the possibility of signals or surveillance, there is another, equally profound hypothesis: panspermia. This is the idea that life itself spreads through the galaxy on objects like comets and asteroids. If this is true, then 3I Atlas isn't just a visitor. It's a potential delivery vehicle. Tracing its trajectory backward suggests it could be ancient, possibly billions of years old, perhaps even older than our own solar system. If so, it is a time capsule from an earlier era of the galaxy's history. Its interior, protected from the harsh radiation of space by a thick crust of ice and rock, could contain pristine organic molecules, the chemical building blocks of life. We already know this is possible. We have found amino acids, the components of proteins, inside meteorites that have landed on Earth. The recent OSIRIS-REx mission confirmed that the asteroid Bennu is rich in carbon and water, the essential ingredients for life as we know it. 3I Atlas, being a carbon-heavy object from the deep freeze of interstellar space, would be an even better preserver of these compounds. But panspermia comes in a more radical flavor: lithopanspermia, the idea that not just molecules but actual viable microorganisms can travel through space. We have life on Earth that could do it. Tardigrades, or water bears, can survive the vacuum of space. Bacterial spores can remain dormant for millions of years. If life on Earth developed this incredible resilience, why couldn't life elsewhere? 3I Atlas is not going to hit Earth. But if it fragments, if pieces break off, those fragments could eventually find their way into our atmosphere. The darker side of panspermia is the possibility of an extraterrestrial plague. While most biologists believe that alien biochemistry would be too different from our own to cause infection, we are speculating based on a sample size of 1. Life on Earth. We simply do not know. More likely, if 3I Atlas is carrying anything biological, it's chemical fossils, the inert remains of life that once existed. Discovering such fossils would still be the single greatest scientific discovery in human history. It would prove that life is not unique to Earth. It would mean the universe is teeming with biology, and we are part of a vast cosmic ecosystem. Whether 3I Atlas is a dead messenger carrying the ghosts of ancient life, or a living gardener carrying the seeds of new life, its passage forces us to see ourselves not as an isolated miracle, but as part of a much larger, interconnected story. The story of 3I Atlas is not just about an object in space. It's about us. It's about how we, as individuals and as a society, react to a profound unknown. The information blackout, whether intentional or not, has created a perfect breeding ground for suspicion, speculation, and the erosion of trust. The human brain is a pattern recognition machine. It is designed to find agency and intention, even in random noise. This is an evolutionary advantage that kept our ancestors alive. But in the modern information age, it leads to cognitive biases like apophenia, seeing patterns where none exist. When official explanations feel inadequate, our brains fill the gap with narratives of deliberate action and conspiracy. This is amplified exponentially by social media, which creates echo chambers where belief systems are reinforced and contradictory evidence is filtered out. The 3I Atlas subreddit is a fascinating example of a distributed cognitive process where thousands of people are collectively trying to solve a puzzle with incomplete information. It is both a powerful tool for discovery and a dangerous engine for misinformation. We are watching our own psychology play out in real time. The desire for cognitive closure, the need for a definitive answer, drives people to latch onto whichever narrative feels most satisfying. Whether it's definitely a comet, or it's definitely an alien probe. The middle ground, I do not know yet, is cognitively uncomfortable and socially unrewarding. This event is forcing a conversation that most of humanity has never been prepared for. If contact were to be confirmed, the response wouldn't be purely scientific. It would trigger a global psychological, philosophical, and religious crisis. What does it mean for our place in the cosmos? What does it mean for our faith systems? The disclosure paradox is that if you release information too early, you risk panic. If you withhold it, you risk being accused of a cover-up. There is no easy path. What's happening now is a rehearsal. We are collectively thinking through the implications of contact, and that exercise is valuable, regardless of what 3I Atlas turns out to be. It reveals our hopes, our fears, and our deepest assumptions about the universe and our place within it. Where there is mystery, conspiracy theories will flourish, and 3I Atlas has become a gravitational center for some of the wildest speculation imaginable. These theories are more than just entertainment. They are modern myths, narratives that attempt to impose order on a chaotic and confusing reality. There is the claim, which went viral, that Chilean scientists used AI to decode a message from the object, "We are on our way. Don't be afraid." While almost certainly false, the message is psychologically perfect, tapping into our deepest hopes and fears. Then you have theories that connect 3I Atlas to the Anunnaki, the ancient gods of Sumerian myth, who alternative historians like Zecharia Sitchin claimed were extraterrestrials who created humanity. In this view, the object is the return of our creators, a fulfillment of ancient prophecy. Others see it as a key component of Project Bluebeam, a long-standing conspiracy theory that global elites are planning to stage a fake alien invasion using advanced holographic technology to usher in a one-world government. In this scenario, 3I Atlas is part of the setup. A real object whose nature is being misrepresented to prime the public for the grand deception. These theories may seem outlandish, but they resonate because they offer a sense of control. They suggest that events are not random, but are part of a hidden plan, and that by understanding the plan, one can be in the know. They transform cosmic ambiguity into a human-centric drama of deception and power. They are a reflection of our deep-seated distrust of authority, and our yearning for a narrative where everything, no matter how strange, is ultimately about us. So as we stand here in the darkness of the perihelion blackout, waiting for December, what do we do with this story? What is the lesson to be drawn from this cascade of anomalies, synchronicities, and suspicions? Perhaps the true identity of 3i Atlas is, for now, the secondary question. The primary lesson is about us. It is about how we confront the unknown. This story is a mirror, and in it, we can see our own reflection, our capacity for brilliant pattern recognition, and our vulnerability to self-deception, our hunger for definitive answers, and our fear of ambiguity, our yearning for connection with something greater, and our terror of what that connection might entail. The advice I would offer is not to pick a side. It is not to become a true believer or a hardened skeptic. The most valuable and the most difficult position to hold right now is one of radical curiosity and intellectual humility. Learn to be comfortable in the state of, I don't know. This is a skill that is essential not just for contemplating interstellar objects, but for navigating our complex and often confusing world. Vet your sources. Question your own biases. Ask yourself, does this belief feel good because it's true, or because it confirms what I already want to believe? We must learn to weigh evidence without emotion, to entertain possibilities without committing to them, and to find wonder not just in the potential for extraordinary answers, but in the beauty of the questions themselves. Whether 3i Atlas is a comet, a probe, or something we can't even imagine, its journey through our solar system is a gift. It is a cosmic wake-up call, a chance to look up from our small terrestrial squabbles and remember that we live in a universe of infinite mystery and possibility. I want to leave you with a few questions to ponder. If it is a message, why was it sent in a way that is so ambiguous, so open to interpretation? And if we are being watched, what have our observers learned about us from the way we have reacted to their potential presence? Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. Stay safe, stay curious, and take care of yourselves and each other. And if you find yourself coming back to this channel for more explorations into the mysteries of our world, please take a moment to hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. It truly helps us continue this work. We'll see you in the next one.